And honestly, that's the difference between like well-trained companies and non-well-trained companies is they don't talk about these things. That's why you'll constantly hear me say smile, constantly hear me talk about making eye contact, constantly telling me about standing and having more energy and more enthusiasm. Because if I could teach you that, your entire rest of your sales career will go well. So the question was, one of our Spanish-speaking agents said that he has a lot more success with the Spanish-speaking clients, and I've noticed that. And I will say that the Spanish language is a lot more friendly language. Like people, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, like maybe just in observation, but when you see a person and they prefer to speak Spanish and somebody speaks Spanish, all of a sudden this big smile, big grin comes up, and they start to really like get into the conversation. I think, and I've heard Claudia speaking, I've had several other Spanish speaker agents over the years, and I've noticed that. But see, that's the thing too. It's like commonality right off the bat. Like in the normal conversation, we're striving to find some commonality. That's why we're using the acronym FORD, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. We're building rapport and we're finding commonality. When you're in a foreign place and you're wanting to speak a foreign language that only people from that foreign place speak, there's commonality right off the bat. Add to that, it's a very friendly language, and so I think that's why you're noticing that those calls go way better, is because right off the bat they're like, oh cool, this is a person that speaks my language. This is a person that's more like me. This is a person that understands me more. So, right off the bat, the calls are going to be better, That's why I'd say a little strategy for that, finding that on the English-speaking calls, is look at whatever details you can. Like if those social media icons are up, use them, Click on their Twitter page, click on their LinkedIn page, click on their Facebook page, and try to find out something that you can find some commonality with them about. Maybe they're a Spurs fan, I've actually led in conversations like that after I've gotten through the first thing. Man, how about that game last night, huh? And it gets them talking. They don't know that I just looked at their Twitter feed and saw that they're a Tim Duncan fan, They just know that, hey, I was talking about the game last night, which I know he watched because he's a Spurs enthusiast, Other things too, like, noticing their area code. Their area code is 702. I see you're in Las Vegas. I just visited there. Man, that's a fun place, Yeah, I miss it, or, oh, I was born there, and so you got to do what you can. It can be really challenging on those leads that come up where there's no real, clues as to commonality, and so you got to fish for it. You've got to ask questions for it. And so then I would say your only real option to try to reach that commonality is to try to really improve your approach. I've seen you standing a lot, Albert. That's good. That's going to give you the energy. But, you've only got 10, 15 seconds to really win over that call. So I've heard some of you say, hey, can I speak to so-and-so? That probably isn't going to get you as great a response as, good morning, may I speak to so-and-so? And I've heard a lot of people say, I'm looking for so-and-so. That's kind of not going to get you too great of an intro. And, a lot of it is energy and a lot of it is enthusiasm and, good morning. You just hear like your voice kind of take a little bit higher pitch, Ladies have an advantage here, okay, because ladies just have a much more, softer, sweeter sounding voice. And so we have to do what we can. We don't want to sound real rough. We don't want to sound tired. That's one of the reasons why I stand. We want to try to get that same kind of soft, energetic feeling when we get into the phone call. And so that's why you want to do everything you can, because that's the biggest difference right now. If you wonder, how come I don't get any appointments? You may be losing the battle in that first 10, 15 seconds. You may want to change the way that you introduce yourself. You may want to look at doing that a little bit more energetically, smoothly, professionally, and make it easier on yourself, And then beyond that, You can get to some of those rapport building questions sooner. But the truth of the matter is too, I mean, that's the challenge. It's a big challenge. But you got to do everything you can to win that battle at the very beginning, you know. So that was a great question. Why do my Spanish-speaking clients feels like that I can convert easier? It's a great identification point, which is when you speak Spanish and the other person's Spanish, you establish commonality from the very outset, which is really nice, you know. For all non-speaking Spanish-speaking, you got to do everything you can to research, discover clues. If you can't, and if there are no clues, you have to do your best to come across more energetically, more enthusiastically, more professionally, okay? It's like somebody walks in the door, okay? If they walk in the door and they see somebody busy on their phone, oh, hey, sign in, please. You know, it's kind of like that's the energy that you get when you walk in versus you walk in the door and someone makes great eye contact with you, big smile, hey, how are you today, right? Completely different like feeling. And honestly, that's the difference between like well-trained companies and non-well-trained companies is they don't talk about these things. That's why you'll constantly hear me say smile, you know, constantly hear me talk about making eye contact, you know, constantly telling me about standing and having more energy and more enthusiasm. Because if I could teach you that, your entire rest of your sales career will go well. It's wax on, wax off. Okay? Y'all remember the Karate Kid? Wax on, wax off? That's one of my favorite movies because he, if you remember that movie, Danielson basically wants to learn karate, and Mr. Miyagi, he's the maintenance guy at his apartment complex, kind of likes him and takes a liking to him, and they sign up for this karate tournament where the kids that are picking on him in school basically are going to fight him in a ring at a tournament. And so Mr. Miyagi says, okay, I'm going to teach you karate, and he takes him to his house where he has like 12 cars and a bunch of work that needs to be done, and he teaches them to wax on, wax off, paint up, paint down, sand on, sand off, right? And I don't know if you remember that, but like by the time, I guess like 3 or 4 weeks in, Danielson gets like frustrated. He's like, man, you're supposed to be teaching me karate. I'm going to get murdered at this tournament, and all you're teaching me to do is clean all your stuff and do all your chores around the house. And then Mr. Miyagi says, okay, do wax on. And he starts doing wax on, and it actually was teaching him like blocks and moves, and he never knew it the whole time. That's essentially what it sounds like, something so simple, like just making good eye contact, just smiling, just having a little bit more professional, energetic enthusiasm. That sounds like almost too remedial, right? We're all looking for like that secret, that, you know, that silver bullet, but that's what it is. It's the basics. Master the fundamentals, okay? And you'll win.
It was like Robert Kiyosaki, from his rich dad, learned Monopoly. Do you remember that story?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and he went to his rich dad for guidance, and every day he just had him sit down and play Monopoly, and after a while he's like, I'm done with Monopoly, I want to learn your business. And he's like, well, this is my business.
Yeah. Or you'll remember, too, when him and his friend went to the store and worked for the rich dad. They worked for free, you know? They worked for free for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. And like the rich dad never paid him. And finally they got frustrated and they went up to him and they were like, look, you know, we've been doing all this work for you and we're not making anything. And that was the first lesson that he was teaching them, which was payments or receiving a paycheck is not the only form of payment. And that's what I hope the 4 of you will understand here is you're getting paid very little. You could get paid more at Bill Miller's or McDonald's, for goodness sakes. But what you're getting paid a tremendous wealth is in what I'm teaching you. Because if you really take it to heart and you really allow yourself to learn these principles, once you do become licensed, you're going to be ninjas, you know? You're going to be sales ninjas because you'll use these principles to learn what it is that took me a decade and a half to learn. Yeah. So I'm Mr. Miyagi. You guys are Daniel's sons, right? And it's wax on, wax off. That's a great question, and it's a good thing that we're discussing it right now. And for the people that are on camera, like you'll notice, like a lot of realtors will say, man, internet leads suck. You know, they're worthless. I buy them and I can't convert them. And a lot of it too is just the way that they're making the introduction on the phone call, you know? And that's one reason too, like when you pick up on little clues, like the way the person answers the phone, like if they're in a rush or they're in a hurry, or sometimes they'll answer and they're like, "Hi, how are you today?" Those are the great ones because okay, this person's open and warm. Some people, "What do you want?" Those are more challenging, right? But using just focusing on the little things, smiling, using your energy, using your enthusiasm will help you get more progress, especially with those tough ones. So, good question.